接下来为特邀演讲，本场次请中国医药大学黄荣村讲座教授主持，请德国佛伦斯堡大学 Prof Jurgen Budde 演讲。演讲的主题为 Heterogeneity between difference, Individuality and Universalism: Insights on Heterogeneity from Central Europe。接下来将时间交给主持人，掌声欢迎。
左右都有黑色的。
很抱歉，我等一下要用英文介绍我们的讲者给大家。
对，这就是。
President Huang, distinguished speakers, and ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce Professor Dr. Jurgen Budde for your reference. Professor Budde is a senior faculty working at the Institute of Educational Sciences in the Europa-Universitat, Flensburg. Flensburg is a big city located at the northernmost border of Germany, with the picturesque Flensburg fjord close to the Danish border. Europa-Universitat is a public university founded in 1946 as a teacher training college and later granted full university status in 1994. Best known for its interdisciplinary approach to the study of education and management. Professor Budde completed his doctoral training at the University of Hamburg, focusing on the study of masculinity in everyday high school life and gender equitable school culture. Then he continued to finish the habilitation with the title, The Social Order of School Lessons. He has been serving professorship since 2012 at Europa-Universitat in the field of school pedagogy, with a special emphasis on the issues of social inequality in education and the new perspective in educational ethnography. Professor Budde has made an interesting observation on the dual socialized functions of educational institutions. He said, on the one hand, the education institution can be served as a places of reproduction of inequalities. It's very contradictory from the point of view of educational function. But on the other hand, the institutions could also serve their democratic and justice-oriented responsibility point of view. And Professor Budde is a highly acclaimed and prolific researcher. He has published over 250 articles and edited influential topical volumes on various aspects of education. He's also a well-informed educator on the theme and variations of recent educational developments in Central Europe. Professor Jurgen Budde will now present a thoughtful topic on the heterogeneity between difference, individuality, and universalism, insights of heterogeneity from Central Europe. 这个中文的翻译，我们的那本书有写，就是在讲差异、个别性，还有普遍主义之间的异质性。这是来自中欧的异质性观点，因为个别性跟这个差异性，跟学校里面强调的普遍主义，两个其实是矛盾的。就像那黄董事长刚刚讲的，公益跟卓越怎么样把它混合起来，把它整合起来，其实是非常困难的。 那他今天的主题就是讲这个。So let's welcome Professor Jurgen Budde.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for the invitation and the possibility to give some of my thoughts. I will add a little bit different perspective, which is not a contrast, but it's another perspective on the way we could or we should think about diversity and schools. So I'm talking mainly about the German school system, and because I think you're not all common with the special German school system, I have some insights. This is, in short, the structure of the German school system, and you have some important points. First, at the age of 10, we separate in Germany the pupils to different school types. So it's a very early differentiation. Some of you may know other nationally, every country solved this problem in another way. But Germany traditional divide in at a very early stage. Second, we have from the age of 10 3 different regular school types where they are based on different abilities and lead to different graduations. So only the grammar school lead to university, the others start at the age of 15 or 16 years, and the students then start to work. And the third, we have a traditionally a long tradition of special needs schools in Germany. It goes back to the post-World War I period, and between 5 and 10% of all German students are visited this school. And they typically not lead to graduation. So while the UN Convention on the Right of People with Disability has increased inclusion education in all countries in the world, even in Germany, we can see here that the amount of students who visit inclusive classroom in the regular school increased from 150,000 to 258 nowadays. But the number of students visiting extra schools remains at the same level. So we have more diagnostic, but we do not really have more inclusion. So this is different from Taiwan. As I understood the numbers in the right way, we really go down with the pupils visiting extra schools. Germany follows another way. The second thing to German school system is that we have strongly, that the German school system strongly reflects social inequality. And this is international at a really high level, known since the first PISA result from 2001. But the problem is still unsolved. So what you can see here in short is that the social background very, very strong influence the learning success of pupils and the range over other countries. So, for instance, recommendation for grammar schools vary significantly with students' social backgrounds. Of course, because of the support they get at home, but also this gap even persists when students across different socio-economic backgrounds have similar abilities. So even then, the recommendation for grammar schools differ. We also have things like institutional discrimination against students from migration backgrounds, or the presence of a hidden curriculum, for example, that reinforce gender stereotypes. Simultaneous, the meritocratic principle plays, of course, a crucial role in shaping heterogeneity within school. In Germany, high on the line. The meritocratic ideal of equal pay for equal performance regardless of background, underpins the legitimacy of modern school system. It promises fair inclusion and justifies differences only based on performance. Of course, we can't think in another way about school. This orientation is reflected globally, benchmark, standards, central exams, and school rankings, and so on. This framework allows to understand the traditional school relation between individuality and universality. In other words, the dual responsibility of schools, both to students and society. In the opening ceremony, we heard about this double obligation of school. And this is, of course, a fundamental pedagogical principle to be responsible for both sides. Furthermore, school in modern society, democratic society, are obliged to reduce inequality and to promote inclusion, democracy, and children's rights, influenced, for example, by the global SDGs or the Convention of the Right of People. So these aspects highlights the German school system due to heterogeneity, and this is the starting point for my lecture. That's what I want to do. First, so heterogeneity is a complex and challenging concept, and it's difficult to define. In general, most human perception, whether of facts, people, artifacts, emotion, and so on, involves comparison of various qualities and quantities. In the Enlightenment tradition of Central Europe, comparative processes highlight differences and establish homologies in the same time, bringing order and structure to our understanding of the world. Since Kant, marking differences has been viewed as a kind of epistemological principle that informs not only social perceptions, but also the basically ability to act. By simplifying the complexity of social reality, differences transform into order, differences transform chaos into order, and form the basis of human practices. In this sense, creating differences is a fundamental phenomenon. Human recognition, perception, discourses, activities, everything rely on distinction. In recent years, education science has increasingly engaged with terms like heterogeneity or diversity, often referring to social and cultural categories such as gender, ethnicity, social class, disability, and so on, and the intersectional dimensions. These categories, often of difference, are central in shaping the process of both individual socialization and social inequality. Oh, sorry. However, because heterogeneity is a complex and theoretical broad, sometimes described as fuzzy or container term. So, I first want to give some theoretical reflection on heterogeneity, and then I will present some empirical examples from ethnographic study. But first, to heterogeneity. First of all, we have to think about heterogeneity as a social construct, defined through social practices and discourses. It's not something natural given alone, but it's, so to say, difference or heterogeneity is what we are doing with differences. And whenever we talk about differences or differentiation, it only exists in relation to homogeneity. Those concepts rely on perceptions and comparison based on implicit or explicit standards. While heterogeneity highlights differences between two facts, two people, artifacts, emotions, other things, homogeneity, in contrast, describes the equality of the compared aspects. In educational context, constructions of heterogeneity are deeply influenced by power dynamics, which can reinforce social inequalities. Without that knowledge, these power relations, we risk reducing heterogeneity to kind of diversity or colorfulness in a simply additive way. So I want to think about heterogeneity as a triangle between difference, universality, and individuality, which each of this contains opportunities and risks at the same time. So schools as institutions are obliged to uphold universalistic norms of equality, of course. The idea of the modern school as a democratic achievement does not differentiate on the basis of social, cultural status or dignity, for example, grounded in ideas of equality. However, this universalistic approach can also create exclusion through homogenizations, often stabilize implicit biases that generate around ableists, white, heteronormative, or middle-class perspectives. To be aware of differences can allow more inclusive group-specific education, such as gender-sensitive or inclusive pedagogy, but also risk reinforcing hierarchical regulations that contribute to exclusion. As we know, categories like gender, race, or social class, and the related stereotypes have great impact in school in nearly every respect. This is often described as a dilemma of differences. Furthermore, it is pedagogically necessary to respond to the individuality of the students, with individualized teaching seen as the optimal approach to appreciating heterogeneity in Central Europe. However, research indicates that individualization, self-directed learning, can increase inequality and may lead to feeling of social isolation or overwhelm. In Germany, we could have learned a lot about that during the COVID-19 pandemic, where students were left at home for weeks and months without really teaching and without really having a community to cooperate. And as I've read, Taiwan solved this problem in another way, but in Germany we left students at home for a long time. So, furthermore, an emphasis on individualization often increased pressure for continual self-improvement and personal responsibility among students. My main point is that this triangle cannot be solved in one direction, so we have to foster individuality alone, or just to look on the universal function of the school, but it's we have to reflect on the relationships between these 3 points. This is one of the 2 main points I want to make. So, while the term heterogeneity has recently become popular, the phenomena of students' diversity has become central to German schooling since the very early 19th century. Early educators, in Germany, Herbert, for example, with his notion of the difference of minds, or Trapp's concept of the middle heads the lessons have to address, acknowledges diversity, viewing it either as a problem or a challenge. The 20th century reform pedagogy movement in Central Europe, or in Montessori, for example, sought to counter traditional homogenization schools with more individualized approaches that are supposed to better address the students' diversity. However, differences in schools should not be seen merely as individual characters of students or solely attributed to cultural backgrounds of the families outside school, but school practices generate heterogeneity and are far from being neutral in how they handle differences in at least 4 ways. For example, structural differentiations, so schools construct diversity through organizational structures, types of schools, grade level, subjects, teacher specialization, and so on. And all these differentiations create diversity. Even if, or also in pedagogical approaches, we have by instructional designs and teacher methods, differentiated, individualized learning, self-directed learning formats, we create a special form of differences among students. We have impact of migration and gender diversity that also leads to a change of the demography of students. In Germany, we have a long tradition of migration students coming to Germany and should be integrated in the system. And also this creates diversity in school. And last but not least, we have a normative orientation towards diversity as a chance. Heterogeneity is, or at least should not be seen as a problem, but increasingly as an opportunity. So productive resource in education, and this shift could be called heterogeneity orientation, represents a paradigm in modern school that challenges the traditional universalist view on education. So, second point I want to make first is we have this triangle. Second point, schools are not just a black box where different pupils came and leave the school, but they are part of the game, creating difference. And how do they do it? They do it in different ways. One I want to focus is via performance. Of course, performance is central for schools, not only for the educated individuals, but also for the society role and the professional future of students. Schools therefore produce differences to prepare graduates with varied levels of success for a functional, differentiated society. As you when you think back to the German school system, to all these different school types, there are ideas of the professions the students should have. If you go to grammar school, you should go to university. If you go to a less achieving school, you should go to start a vocational education. So, and performance and assessment are of course crucial for the daily routines of teaching and learning in school. Performance, like diversity, is a construct. Bernstein distinguished between instructional and regularity discourses, which can be, as we would suppose, divided into subject-specific knowledge, knowledge-related behavior, and preparatory routines. And all these three aspects influence how how teachers think about performance. Following Bernstein, as well as Bourdieu and Passeron, my thesis for this that performance regimes act as a central switching point in constructing heterogeneity and transmitting inequality in school. Performance differentiation reflects social milieu and often manifests as a problem of fit between the school and the family background of the students. While academic skills explain some of this fit between school and family, school knowledge-related behavior or the preparatory routine activities play also a significant role. This means pupils have to know how to participate in lessons, how to attract attention in an appropriate way, to know how to learn, to know how to prepare, and so on. It's not only the performance, but it's knowledge about how to perform. And this differs in the way based on the social economic background of the students. So to go on, I will show some insights from a short ethnographical study we've done with students from our university. The interplay between difference, universality, and individuality is crucial in understanding how schools handle heterogeneity. And the following example use data from an ethnographic observation in the 8th grade, so they are about 14, 15 years old in a northern German comprehensive school. It's just an ethnographic protocol which I want to show, so we focus deeply into the real practice. It's not about what teachers should do or what would be best, but it's what really happened in school. So in this class we have 24 students. 19 students are present in the lessons I want to start with, and 5 of the students have a special education needs. And the topic, it's a German lesson, is about summary of short stories. And what I want to show using grounded theory is to analyze how performance practices lead to differentiation. And furthermore, I want to show that the universalistic idea of meritocracy is adapted into a kind of plural performance regime. So we have a spreading of the way of thinking about what is performance. So, the short excerpt. The pupil work on an exercise, so they write a summary of the short story, adapted to different levels. The different levels here are marked with a star. In the school, they always talk about starries to describe in which category the students are. I will read it in short. After the content of the story has been explained, the teacher now gives the exercise. The students are to write a summary. The rest, what they do not do during the lesson, is homework. Ms. Meyer, the teacher, writes an exercise on the chalkboard. We have this. I don't know if you know what chalkboard is. We have this still in Germany. From paragraph, the first stories form paragraph and think about headings. Write down key points. 2 stories, the same as 1 stories, and additional write an introduction. Förderschüler, this is the German term for students with special education needs, sort and stick on text sections. So, and then the pupils start working on their tasks. And at the end of the lesson, Ms. Meyer announces the homework again and wishes the students a nice week. All the students pack up their things while the doors opened and other students came into the classroom. These are the students who are doing the 3 tasks. So, what happened? The class receives an exercise that initially is set for 3 different groups. Each group expected level of achievement indicated by a specific symbol. For instance, both the 1-star and the 2-star group are given more or less the same story to work on. The 2 stars have an additional task. They should write an introduction. Through both groups engaged in writing, the complexity and scope of the exercise differ. 2-star students required to perform a more demanding task than the first. So it's clear that we have different expectations to different students. For students with special education needs, however, the exercise is further adapted. Their job is not to create own written content, but to sequencing and organizing text sections. This task, while not requiring direct writing skills, still emphasizes understanding and logical arrangement of the short story. Whereas the 1 and the 2-star group are differentiated corresponding to the performance levels, the students with special education needs are set apart through a different terminology and are marked by the absence of stars. This is only a very little point, but while the other students are marked in the same way, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, the pupils with special education needs are out of this order. Although it would be possible to use a star-based ranking system for this group as well, the differentiation here is instead based on a distinct status label, namely status Förderschüler, pupil with special education needs. These distinguish the students and underscore the separation from those who are supposed not to require additional support. These differentiations become particularly clear at the end of the lesson, when finally a fourth group, the 3-star students, enters the room. These groups, compromising the highest performing students, receive instructions separate from the others, both in terms of content and localization. Unlike typical scenarios in inclusive classroom in Germany, where normally or often students with special education needs are segregated spatially or pedagogically, here is the highest performing group that is taught apart from the others. It might be might be a little bit the same like the Taiwanese resource classes, if I understand that right. But as I read it, the resource class addresses students with special education needs. So it's the same system, but the other way around, in a way. This high-achieving group receives separate instruction, not only in German, but also in mathematics and English, each subject taught by an additional teacher. So this star-based group placement remains stable across this subject for an entire semester. Additionally, the school permits the majority of students to discuss and self-select their group placement. So the 1 and the 2 stars, they can choose which task they want to do. Some can do whatever they like. Even in exams, they can choose which task they want to do. Consequently, this structure, however, students with special education needs are excluded from this process, as their placement are determined through formalized diagnostic procedure. Also, the best students are selected by diagnostics. Consequently, this class structure ultimately reinforces a stable, tied group system that resembles the traditional German four-tier school model, but now not on the level of different schools, but on the level of the same class with 4 different school types within one class. Okay, in the subsequent German lesson, centered at the homework review, this differentiated performance regime is further evident to the use of appropriate language. The accuracy and use of the terminology become relevant factors in categorizing the task as either 1 or 2 star. So this is from the lesson just 1 week later. Nele, one student, reads her summary aloud. After reading, there's feedback from other people with tips and suggestions for improvement. Marie thinks it was good that she wrote in the now form. Ms. Meyer asked the whole class what the now form is called. Lucas called out the class and say present tense. Ms. Meyer said that this is perfectly okay for the 1 stars to say now form, but that present tense with the keyword. So what we find here, just on the base, on the level of the lesson practices, is that we have different appropriate language styles. The 1 stars may say now form, while the 2 stars should take the terminology, the German terminology. So, notably, students with special education needs receive no attention during the whole homework review. They are neither invited to present their homework, nor guided on which language might be most appropriate to this group. So this is a line we often find when we look at practice of German inclusive school, inclusive classes, that it's a kind of to forget that we have students with special education needs. So while differentiations are omnipresent, I want to show that we have lots of different productions. In our analysis, it was really a challenge to find things like universality. So some commodality exists. This is from an exam, and the students have to write an exam. And during the exam, some commonalities exist, just like it's the same time, the same task, the same group label, the 8A, and engage with the same subject. But if I bring you the different grading sheets, for the pupil with special education needs, there exists no grading sheet. They got no marks. For the 1 star, they have they get their point in relation to the whole points 1 stars would get, and the legal guardian has to sign. For the 2 star, there's a scale with the differentiation for which point leads to which grade. Differentiate between the pupil and pupil with reading disability difficulties, and for the new stars exists another tree. So I have to put it in short. What you can see, you have 5 different grading schemes. So the idea that in performance, the meritocratic principle will lead to a universalistic point of view didn't match. They are not combinable with each other. So if you get, for example, at 51 points, it may be a 1 or a 3. The range vary between the different grades, so it's a very diversity-orientated grading. So what I want to show is that the idea of a universalistic orientation differs within this performance regime. So, at the end, using this example, the short example, the analysis can be summarized as follows. The observed practices reveal a performance-based categorization structure of differentiation. This social order mirrors the 4-tier school systems, reinforcing distinct boundaries. Universality remains indeterminate. So it's largely undefined what is the common point of these lessons where they, as a class, are orientated to. And if we think about that on a society level, I think it's a really important point to think how we can think about communality in school. So when democratic societies are under pressure around the world, we really have to think not only about differentiation and individualization, but we have to think about society. The school might be a place to think about being together and not only being alone or being differentiated. So, from a heterogeneity theory perspective, you can say that differences insert between the traditional relation between individuality and universality, and maybe it replace universality in a special way. What my lecture should show was that differences are produced and reproduced in schools with not only a black box, but for example through performance regime, schools highly are involved in producing differentiations. And these differentiations are linked to inequality. Thank you very much for your attention.
谢谢黄教授的主持与 Prof Jurgen Budde 的演讲。Thank you for your insightful presentation. 现在邀请本会黄坤辉董事长至台前与2位教授一同合影留念。Now may I invite President黄辉黄 to the front for a group photo with the 2 professors. Please come to the stage. 请看向前方摄影镜头。